Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for being with us. Joy Nakrin here with political reporter Doug Reardon for our segment Catch Up Quick. And we're talking all about election results today, Doug. And you know, it's this was an important, particularly important runoff election in DeKalb County, among other things.
Yeah, definitely. That CEO race certainly is one that they haven't had to run in 4 years. Michael Thurmond, who is really a staple there in DeKalb County as their CEO, is termed out. And so, luckily for the folks there in DeKalb County, it'll be two familiar faces. Lorraine Cochran Johnson is a serving commissioner, as is Larry Johnson, her opponent. And even the third candidate, Steve Bradshaw, was also at one point a sitting commissioner. So lots of familiar faces there in that DeKalb CEO race. And to start off here, I want to let our Asia Wilson kind of recap some of these races before we get into talking a little bit more about them, so we'll see you on the other end of the story.
Okay.
Cochran Johnson is the first black woman to fill the CEO role in DeKalb County, and she says she's ready to hit the ground running. According to the Georgia Secretary of State's website, Cochran Johnson won with almost 60% of the vote. She ran against Larry Johnson. Now, before running for the position, both previously served as commissioners in the county. Now, this win comes after the two finished first and second place in the May 21st general primary. Now, as Cochran Johnson is the first African-American woman to take the role, she says she's happy. It will show little girls of color and others they can do anything, and anything is possible. Now, take a listen at what she wants to focus on while in office.
I'm most excited at this point about focusing on economic development because if you look across DeKalb, there is a lack of equity in certain areas. South and unincorporated DeKalb is in sore need of an economic center. But you just can't start there because public safety is extremely important because no one wants to exist in a community where there is high crime. So there are a lot of issues that we must deal with, and it's going to require a lot of partners and strategic focus. So I look forward to getting down from day one.
Now, new this morning, we're also hearing from Larry Johnson, who released this statement saying, "We ran a great race. I thank the voters who believe in this campaign. We congratulate CEO-elect Cochran Johnson on her victory." Cochran Johnson is replacing Michael Thurmond as his term expired. In DeKalb County, Asia Wilson, Atlanta News First.
Thanks,
Okay, so Asia breaking down those results there. And Doug, I mean, you're our political reporter and you follow this closely. Was this a surprise?
No, I don't think so. I think Lorraine was really well liked in that county, as are all the other candidates who are in against her, including her opponent, Larry Johnson. Like I said before that story, they're both really well known in that county. They have served as sitting commissioners for a number of years now. We were lucky enough to get a forum with all three of those candidates before the primary election last month. And they all have some really incredible ideas for how to run that county, but they are going to have some really big shoes to fill. Michael Thurmond was a really dominating presence in that county. He was incredibly well liked. There is talk that he may even be a Democratic potential candidate for governor in 2 years when that seat comes up for a vote. And so just to give you an example of how big those shoes are, that is the type of politician that we're talking about here. But again, no surprise there from Lorraine. Some of the things that she told us she wants to do that I know she will get to work on right away, increasing pay for first responders, including police and firefighters in the county, as well as cutting down on those emergency response times. That was something that the DeKalb got a lot of flack for over the last couple of years, and so that's something that I know she wants to very desperately decrease for folks there who need emergency services in the county. And so she will, of course, Michael Thurmond will finish out the rest of his term. Lorraine will take over next year.
Yeah, and you know, certainly a big shoes to fill, like you've said, Doug. Also want to talk about the 3rd district race as well, and you know, I think this is the winner here, Brian Jack, probably has a lot of high expectations to meet as well.
Yeah, certainly, especially given the endorsements that he received. I mean, he was handpicked by former President Trump to run in this district against someone who was a very tough opponent to beat, which is Mike Dugan. He is a former state senator. He was the former Senate Majority Leader here in Georgia for a number of years. And so he's also a very savvy politician with a lot of name recognition. But Jack simply had that Trump endorsement, and it kind of speaks to the nature of Trump endorsements. Even all this time after he has been done serving in the White House, it still really is voluminous how effective that endorsement can be, and it kind of proved it in this District 3 race. And Jack was a former member of former President Trump's advisory team, who was an advisor to the former president when he was serving in the White House, and so the two know each other very well. So it wasn't a surprise that Trump handed over his endorsement to Brian Jack, but like I said, it really speaks volumes as to how much value that Trump endorsement really has here in Georgia. Maybe, could be a little indicative of what we could see in November. Jack is really expected to be the winner of that district, as polling shows right now, over his Democratic candidate. But like I said, Mike Dugan, really a tough opponent for him. And so we got a chance to hear from Brian Jack after he claimed victory last night. And so we'll let you hear that now.
All right, let's listen to that.
At the end of the day, if you feel like you've got a movement, if you work hard to build a team and build a community, it really makes a difference and makes an impact. And at the same time, too, how you react when you're tried and under stress and under pressure, I think defines you as a person. I am so proud to have run such a positive campaign, and I'm so proud that the citizens of our district delivered a 30-point win tonight in respect of that campaign.
I guess you said a strong endorsement. You've got former President Trump, so it kind of was not a surprise victory, shall we say.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. Now, the other interesting one that we were keeping a really close eye on was District 14, and not because we expected to not know who the Republican incumbent would be. Obviously, that is Marjorie Taylor Greene. She has insane name recognition around Georgia and around the country. She represents the Rome area of Georgia. But the man who is going to face her in November, Sean Harris, also has a lot going for him as far as being a candidate. He is a veteran of Afghanistan. He's a former Army Brigadier General, a retired Army Brigadier General, I should say. But Marjorie Taylor Greene is a tough opponent to beat. She's been serving in that district now for a couple of different election cycles. She's very vocal in Congress, whether or not you agree with her policies or not. She's very good at getting herself out there. And Rome is a very important area, and we know that because former President Trump picked that district to hold his very first
The Negroes claimed that voter registration tests
right after
were
he
used
secured the Republican nomination for president. He did that by design. Georgia's an important state, and Marjorie Taylor Greene is a very important ally to him here. And so we know the premium that former President Trump is placing on that district, and I guarantee you he's going to have his fingerprints all over this race when the time comes for him to give some input on it.
Absolutely. That is undeniable. All right. So, Doug, of course, today is Juneteenth, the celebration of the end of slavery. And, we were talking a little bit about this piece a retrospective that our colleague Patrick Quinn did, really looking back at the fight for equal voting rights as well.
Yeah, I mean, today's the day to think about it, certainly, and especially in a state like Georgia where we have such a high population of black residents that are taking time out today to celebrate, to reflect on what this day means for them. We really wanted to make sure that everyone saw this story that our Patrick Quinn got a chance to do, and so we'll play that for you now.
The Negroes claimed that voter registration tests were used to keep them from the polls.
In the 1940s and 50s, for black men in Georgia, even before the barrage of hate you might face physically at the polls, you were tested.
What is the definition of a felony in Georgia? Oh, dear God.
We went into the Georgia archives. That is one question on the 1958 citizenship test. If voters could not read and write a section of the Georgia Constitution, they'd have to answer 20 of these 30 questions correct to be able to register to vote.
In the 40s, how hard would this have been?
It would have been impossible. It was truly designed with discriminatory intent.
We sat down with Alicia Hughes, Emory's interim executive director for the Center of Civil Rights and Social Justice. Hughes said her grandfather and great-grandfather had to take literacy tests just like these.
You couldn't read and write, and the registrar were to ask a person these questions. What is the likelihood that they would know the answer in the 40s and 50s? Hell, let's consider what's the likelihood that most Americans would have the answers to these questions today.
We wanted to know the same. Could you pass a literacy test today? We took these questions to the Atlanta streets.
May the President of the United States be legally elected for a second term?
Yes.
You're on a roll.
I'm a teacher. I do teach about it.
Though this second grade teacher would soon be stumped on the term length for U.S. senators.
2 years.
It's 6, but she wouldn't be the only one to come up short.
How many representatives are there in the Georgia House of Representatives?
And how does the Constitution of Georgia provide that they be apportioned among the several counties?
I do not know.
What's the name of the state judicial circuit you're in? And what are the names of the counties or counties in that circuit?
That's ridiculous. No one knows that.
That was the voting landscape then. But what about now?
There are so many different ways now that some iteration of a literacy test is coming back into play, even now.
Civil rights organizations, including the ACLU of Georgia and the Southern Poverty Law Center, argue in Senate Bill 202, passed and signed by Governor Kemp in 2021, changes to absentee voting and accessing drop boxes make it harder for specifically black voters to cast a ballot. And just last month, the governor signed Senate Bill 189, calling for more election changes. The governor's office defended the bill, saying, quote, "As the governor has done in the past, he will always support measures that keep our elections secure, accessible, and fair. Whether in the 1940s or now, no matter the odds, perceived or real obstructions, Georgians cannot be denied their right to vote."
You have to go through this in order for us to get what we need as far as our government is concerned, our lives, our everyday lives. We have to go through this process.
In Atlanta, Patrick Quinn, Atlanta News First.
Yeah, so thank you so much to Patrick Quinn for that report. And, you know, as we commemorate Juneteenth, this day to celebrate the end of slavery, just kind of taking a look back at some of the important facts about today. And this date specifically signifies the end of slavery in Texas 2.5 years after Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863. It was actually June 19th of 1865 is the day that we're talking about. And it is the newest federal holiday, only received federal holiday status in 2021, signed by President Biden. It was celebrated only regionally for a long period of time. Upson County, Georgia made it a holiday in
The Negroes claimed that voter registration.
And, you know, I also want to let you know that there are a number of events taking place today through the weekend. We have that information on AtlantaNewsFirst.com. Just go under our community tab. And then this weekend, there's the Juneteenth Atlanta Parade and Music Festival taking place. You can watch it on Peachtree TV at noon. You can also join us along the parade route, the map right here on Atlanta News.